All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Monday, February 10th meeting of the Pine Bluffs Town Council. Will everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item is the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Item number 1 under new business is ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming, adjusting the regular meeting schedule and providing for an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 2025-01 on the first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 2025-01 on first reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, on to visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments? Norm?
Who owns our ambulances?
Town of Pine Bluffs.
Where does the money come from to buy those?
Boy, I think it comes from a lot of different sources. The most recent was
Sure.
Our
Probably
newest
ARPA.
ambulance was purchased with COVID relief funds. Prior to that, they are just purchased with savings from our ambulance fund.
Taxpayer money.
Yes.
What about the maintenance? Who pays for the gas and the maintenance of the vehicles?
The
Town
town,
of Pine Bluffs.
we do,
Taxpayer money.
correct.
Is the EMTs reimbursed in any way, shape, or form?
They are.
To what amount?
We have a director that's paid a stipend to be the director, and then they are paid on a per-call basis,
Based on their level of certification.
depending on their level of certification. I don't have that number right off the top of my head.
Where does the money go that they charge for their service?
Back to our general fund to pay for gas and
Supplies.
supplies, a lot of supplies, upgrades.
What does a billing company in Pennsylvania have to do with it?
It's outsourced billing. That's.
You
our
need
bill-
a certified billing, medical
Yeah.
billing.
So not just anyone, we can't have people in the town hall just looking at, because of HIPAA rules, we can't just let anyone do the billing for ambulance calls, medical calls.
I have a, I have a bill for $2,083 for a trip to Cheyenne. Where is that justified?
Well, we reviewed, like, I can't talk specifically to your bill.
It's based on the rate structure in the local vicinity. So what we did was, we are actually the lowest one of the lowest services in the area. So we look at an average based on our region, and then we structure accordingly to make sure that we can meet all the costs of our department.
And $2,000 a trip is pretty darn steep.
It is
It
very
is, it's not even reasonable. It's robbery is what it is. I understand there's gotta be a charge, and I'm willing to pay a reasonable charge, but $2,000.83 to go to Cheyenne is not right.
Well, what I can tell, and I hear what you're saying, but I also see that when we picked during our last rate increase, which hadn't been looked at for quite some time, I don't think, but during our last rate increase, we purposefully chose numbers that were below the regional averages to accomplish that. I mean, I guess that's all I can say to that. I don't know the specifics of your bill, but.
Well, the specifics is that they charged me $2,083 to take Linda to Cheyenne. And I don't know where you're getting your numbers at, but they're pretty darn high too, apparently. But $2,000 is not right, guys. It's just not right. There's a limit to what we can afford as old people or anybody else. $2,000 for a ride to Cheyenne is not right. Should be adjusted.
And I don't want to dig into your stuff, but, you know, we also look at those rates based on what other people will pay. We certainly, insurance companies, that sort of thing. And it's well below their number. And so.
That's not right. It can't be below anybody's numbers. If the other people's numbers are way higher than that.
They are in fact much higher, Norm.
Like who? Where? What?
AMR in Cheyenne is probably close to double what we are, right, Kim? I can't remember that number, but if you,
They charge $4,000 or $5,000 a ride in Cheyenne? I don't think so.
potentially, yes.
I just
Yeah.
don't think so.
If they were taking you from Pine Bluffs to Cheyenne, yes.
Somehow or another, it should be more transparent then, so people realize what they're getting into when you call these guys in town to take you to Cheyenne. We should know, it should be somehow published, that people will know that they're gonna be done for $2,000 to go to Cheyenne. It's not right, guys. No way, how you can justify it, I don't think so. But that's my complaint, and
Well, I'm happy to look through our records on your particular case, but,
well, my
obviously-
particular case is simple. Linda was showing symptoms of a stroke, and I had the choice of whether to take her in an ambulance or take her in my car. I thought the ambulance people would have situations able to take care of things where I wouldn't. So I opted to go in the ambulance. Had I known it was gonna be $2,000, I think maybe I'd have had to rethought it, because we don't have $2,000 to pay the ambulance people. Anyway, that's what I had to say.
well, we'll look at it and make sure there were no errors or anything like that, but our rates were published, we had public meetings about our rates.
I've never seen any rates published any time about ambulances.
We did when we were having the rate discussion, I believe.
But here's
We did
the
look
bill from Pennsylvania for $2,000, from Pennsylvania. Something ain't right. Don't care what they say.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Barb?
My name is Barb Tellish, and I'm here tonight representing
I'll say the Women of Faith community, and to report on our annual Super Bowl bake sale that we did on Saturday, and the funds all go to the Good Sands Fund. We've been doing this for 20-some years, and I'm here tonight then to give the check from the money that we made on Saturday, and I'm extremely pleased to say we made, for the Good Sands Fund, $971.
That's wonderful.
that's
Thank
great.
you.
The most
Thank
we've
you.
ever made. And I'm certainly grateful to the community for supporting this as well as they have over the years. So Justin, you want me to give you the check or?
Thank you for putting all that together, Barb.
So they can take your picture.
Pardon me?
Go over there so they can take your picture.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for
That's
the
great.
community for supporting this as long as they have.
Any other visitor comments? None. On to department reports.
I have no-
The Airport Advisory Board met on the 30th of January, and Kevin had reported on a few items there. Ardura, our new sponsor, is working with them on several projects, including the AWAS replacement, automated weather observation system, for those of you like me who are not aviation-minded. That project has an estimated cost of about $469,000. The huge majority of that is paid for already. And they foots the bill for most of that. The town has a very small portion. They are moving forward with installing an ADS-B receiver, which is automatic dependent surveillance broadcast. And that is so the FAA can monitor inbound and outbound traffic at the airport. Just get a sense of the amount of activity that happens there, which Kevin thinks is probably a good thing. As far as fuel, approximately 10,000 gallons were sold last year. The current rate, the profit margin's around 79 cents a gallon. It sells for about $5.69 per gallon, and that's cheap compared to other nearby airports, or cheaper. Kevin also did mention that he created a new Facebook page for the airport. It's called 82B Pine Bluffs Municipal Airport. If anybody wants to check that out, he would appreciate us liking that page if we want to take a look at that. And yeah, that's, I guess, all the updates I had. So I think there are a couple of users of the airport, Mark Michaud being one of those, who are looking to install or build hangars on site later this summer or early this fall. So more on that when I get plans and start moving forward. So what do we got?
Well, just to pile a little on to that, I don't know if you discussed it, but I understand our GPS approach is published now, even though it's not active. It's the plate is available to, which seems kind of out of order. I'm kind of like, so now you have to put it on your NOTAMs from now until that it's out of service. That seems strange, but I'm happy it's moving somewhere finally, so. I'm gonna try to do a better job of this moving forward. It never occurred to me to report on WMPA, and so I don't really have anything prepared tonight, but, I should be keeping everyone better informed about our electrical system and, our electrical provider, or however you wanna look at it. So, one thing I do know for sure is that, ultimately, we get our power from Basin Electric, some federal contracts as well, but the bulk of it comes from Basin. And WMPA had a fund built to kind of take the edge off when rates went up, but they went up not by just a little, but a lot. And so even with WMPA absorbing some of this, I think we're looking at power adjustments in the neighborhood of 6% per year for 2 to 3 straight years. So ultimately, it's, you know, we're gonna have to revisit our rates and sooner rather than later on that, and we'll get some final details. We've kind of been resistant to doing that because WMPA is doing a rate study for us. So perhaps our structure will change some, and they'll give us theoretically a better idea of where we should be at on rates. But so that's no fun, but that's the world we're in right now in terms of rates. So, but I'll try to get better about giving you guys a more thorough report.
Do we know when that rate increase would go into effect, or is that still to be determined?
I think at the first of the fiscal year, so they align. So July 1st. Anything else? Any other questions for my haphazard report?
Yes.
Not at this time.
Sure.
2 questions. Do you or Ally have any idea what's going on with the sales tax bill on electrical?
I would defer to Ally, who's probably been keeping better tabs.
Yeah,
It
and
was
then
still making its way last
it
night.
was still making its way as of, I sent you that last week, didn't I? That they had, WHAM had sent out a more detailed impact study for communities. When they show the impact study on the bill, it does not include municipalities, it's just by county. So they actually broke it out for us, and I know they sent that out and they were kind of just doing some education because it was moving forward. But let me see if I can,
But our community had a theoretical difference of
like 25,000, I believe it was.
just,
year.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that HB 300, or which one is it?
It's a Senate file.
Oh, Senate, okay.
I know WHAM also sent out a call for action kind of.
That call for action had the fiscal study in it.
128,
It was last week, I believe.
Yes,
repeal of sales tax on electricity.
yes.
Where does it say it is? Oh, are you on WHAM?
Probably click on the link.
If you click on the
Examples.
link, it
No.
shows you
This
whatever.
is a difficult answer
I'll do
to a
it.
fairly simple question, but I can't.
I should have
Well,
been,
that's-
there's so many that I feel like I should be better at this, but.
How dare you, Ally, not keep a track of 600 bills?
I feel like every day there's something different that you should be watching. So the status shows that it is placed on general file, so really just kinda hanging out in the Senate right now.
Well, they didn't do much today.
No, they
Oddly
didn't do
enough.
anything today. It was kind of the dead day in the Senate, so it is sitting on general file to be committee of the whole.
And then, my second question, on the, increases to the wholesale side, is there a relationship between that and the investment in green energy? Do you know?
Well, I guess, from my point of view, Basin Electric is about as traditional as you can get. But obviously, I think, like, industry-wide, green energy has kind of turned the market upside down a little bit, some, like, a lot of that, this would be getting in the weeds, and I'm not sure I'm the guy to do that, but, yeah, so wind and solar have they're only partially reliable. So now we're building that in, we're building that out while simultaneously figuring out we need baseload generation still. So now we're paying for multiple assets to kind of cover ourselves.
Yeah.
And so effectively, I would say yes, that absolutely this is driven, in a roundabout sort of way, it has driven the prices up for sure. And I think for a lot of another thing, it didn't really hit Basin, but I think a lot of the industry-wide electrical problem rate increases have come on the back of fires. Honestly, there's been a lot of litigation or potential litigation on fires in California and wherever that really hit companies hard, like to the point where they're struggling, which is kind of unheard of for a mature monopoly to struggle, but I think I don't know, there's just a lot of factors, and
Sure.
I'm sure we could spend 3 hours talking about all the nuance of that, but to your point, I think any kind of, if you induce non-economic drivers into an economic system, it's going to throw it out of whack a little bit.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
That would be my opinion. Ally, what else do you have on land?
Well, I mean, to just make things more cheery, still just kind of watching things. The Senate file that takes property tax in half with no backfill and a 2-year sunset date did pass the Senate, so it'll be interesting to see what happens as it passes the House. There are also a lot of property tax bills in the House that need to make it to the Senate, so right now just kind of hanging tight as everyone's switching things to the next House. And for the past few days, it's been a little more quiet, especially as they've been going through the supplemental budget more than anything, so kind of back half of last week was quiet, rolling into this week. There's not a whole lot of action right now, but I don't believe that to be the case for much longer as things start to switch houses. So really just still watching that. WHAM has been hosting lunch with locals, and those seem to be going okay. And they have 2 more yet this month, and that's really it. Just kind of keeping the nose to the grindstone, as it were, in the legislative session.
Maybe not an answerable question. If that one, I can't remember which one, the one that cut property tax by 50% went through, do we know how much that would roughly impact us?
I think the last time I looked at that number, and Kim will probably have it better than I do, our number off of property tax income is like 50,000 a year. Is that correct?
It's a little over 60,000.
Okay, so 60,000 a year, it will cut us to 30, and I think when you're looking at something like a repeal of sales tax on electricity for $30,000 and a decrease in property tax by about $30,000, when you say $30,000 on one line item, I think we can all say, we'll make something work. But as you get these small paper cuts that accumulate, it could be significant by the time all of it's done, so.
But I would also say to that, for the citizens of Pine Bluffs, it's not just about the Pine Bluffs budget, although
Yeah,
that's what we all are charged with being concerned about, but, you know,
The counties.
the citizens of Pine Bluffs are also members, or, you know, citizens of the counties, and they may or may not have kids that go to the school district, and there's just a lot of ways in which the no backfill part of that, although I don't know if education, if they can really, do that without a backfill. I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff floating around out there that's pretty crazy, so.
Yeah.
While, I would just like to reiterate what I said earlier, or later, maybe last summer in the paper, that, you know, it doesn't matter which side of it you're on, I think you should you should think about the long-term impacts of some of these decisions. And if you still, you know, if they still choose that this is the best route for the citizens of Wyoming, then that's what we'll all live with. But it sounds good on the back of a postcard that we're gonna cut property taxes by 50%, but what it really looks like is much
Potholes.
different than that.
and fire, and, I mean, there are a lot of things affected by this, so it's unfortunate, and we'll just keep going and see how things turn out in the end.
Thank you, Emily.
Alex?
Nothing. Thank you.
Austin?
Well, I'll keep things cheery.
Thank you.
That's what we like.
Well, we're moving forward with Text My Gov. Kim and I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow, a Zoom meeting, but I believe she said 6 weeks, 5 weeks before implementation. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And in all actuality, we'll drop code red, we'll save money. And citizens can text in, say, there's a pothole over here, can somebody address it? Or there's a dog running down Elm Street, or the power's out. And then we can text, AI will be incorporated and it'll automatically text back, you know. Okay, I'm sending this message to the right person, the maintenance person, we'll get it taken care of, or you need to pay your bill, go to this link, and
Yeah.
and then we can also send out notices, like the school does, so if we know the power's gonna be out for an hour for maintenance, we can text citizens and say, hey, beware, power's gonna be out in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's an easy sign up. They don't really even have to sign up. We send Text My Gov all the citizens' phone numbers that we have. They will send all those citizens a text saying, do you wanna opt in? Text Y for yes, N for no. That's it. They don't have to put their name, their address, who they are, nothing.
But if once they've received that text from Text My Glove, then if they had something they want to report, they could just text back to it. Like
Yep.
you said, pothole,
Yeah,
and then it's gonna ask you a series of questions to get more information
yeah,
about
what's
what
the
the
address?
issue is.
Yeah, do you have any pictures?
Yeah, so no app for
No app?
residents to download, you just have to reply to
No.
that text.
Yeah, no app, and I think a lot of our residents, not a lot, but there are some residents that don't like to give their name and where they live, which is fine. They don't have to this way.
What's our plan for letting people know that when they get this text, they should swipe the right way?
Well, we're gonna get a widget I guess is what they called it, like a little thing on our website that will give them information. We'll post stuff on our website, we'll probably, put it on Facebook and say,
You put it on the town bills that go out,
yeah, we can put it on that and say,
based on the carbon capture thing, mail's the best way to get people involved.
yeah. And
Oh,
say, you will
absolutely.
be
They'll send us some marketing tools
Okay.
that we can use to get the information out to the public.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great.
That sounds good.
I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you to
So-
our friends in Torrington for a good tip. right?
Yes, absolutely. So, other than that, everything's going good.
Kim?
I have provided you all with an example form that we would like to start using. We have determined that there's a need for us to have a way for people to apply for either a conditional use permit or a variance. Alex, if you could take a look at that form, and I just would like clarification on the difference between conditional use versus a variance. Say we have an empty lot that is in a residential area, and a person would like to put a single mobile home on that lot as opposed to a stick-built house. Would that be a conditional use or a variance to the ordinance?
I think that's a variance.
Okay,
It says right in
I thought the ordinance
our
says.
ordinance that that's a conditional use.
well, our ordinance calls it a conditional use, but we had a discussion on, and that's another thing that we're looking at updating in our zoning ordinance, but we had a discussion at our last meeting about the difference between a variance and a conditional use permit, and when I look up the definition online of each of those, I mean, can do a Google search, but what is our legal duty here in Wyoming? What is the,
Yeah, let me take a look at the whole section and definitions and stuff.
I
but-
thought you put it really well, just as an example is,
Yeah,
I think a well, you need to review it, but to me, a variance feels a lot like a setback issue or something outside of the bounds. And one of the issues, well, I don't
Yeah,
know.
well-
That's
the way
a-
I read it online is exactly that the variance would be a variance to something like either the setbacks or the heights or density or something like that, whereas the conditional use is, I'm using this lot for something other than what the zone is
that's
telling
right.
me I can use
That's
it.
correct.
Okay.
What was the use that was proposed here? A mobile home
In
to
a single mobile home put on a residential lot.
so was that residential zone, was it impermissible to have?
None of our residential zones allow mobile homes unless they have, in our ordinance, it states its use is, it's
Yeah, I-
conditional use or something.
Yeah,
Right,
but
but-
not in all residential zones, only some residential zones allow for, so
Oh,
like
only
A
some will
doesn't,
allow
but
for it, yeah.
like B and C, or I'd get this
Right,
wrong,
but there's a whole section in the
Yes.
code that's just devoted to, manufactured homes and that
Correct.
kind of thing.
Yes,
So you have to look at that and then look at the zone. And depending upon, how it's addressed within that zone, it's more than likely, a conditional use. Now, sometimes those can arise by virtue of a rezoning ordinance, and they're kind of grandfathered stuff that was already there before you zoned. But if it's a new use that does not comply with the zoning ordinance, then that's gonna require an ordinance that deviates from the zoning that is defined in the ordinance.
Except for, well, not except for, but clearly as it states now, this particular use would call for a special use.
Right,
I mean, it's stated in our ordinance.
right.
Whether we fix that in some way and call it something different, if it's more appropriate,
I think it just needs to be cleared up. Yeah.
I mean, somebody thought it should be called special use when they put it in our ordinance, whether they were right or wrong. There must have been some thought given to it.
Oh, yeah. But I think the variance is not it's not something that's done in defiance of the zoning. It's something that, that implements a deviation from the requirements of that zone in terms of how it's performed.
Got it.
So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, setbacks is a
Is that
good
any
example.
clearer for you, or?
No, it's very much clearer. I guess I was mixing this one up with that one that we were talking about at the RV park, where that would actually be probably both.
Technically speaking, you mean the setback from the road, even though it's not our road. That's the only variance that I know they're not doing properly over there, is the setback from the curb.
Yes.
But then we have to assume that it's our road.
Yeah,
As
and
long as they're
I don't know if it's our road or
I
not.
don't
It is not.
In which case, then,
It
as
does
long
not
as,
matter.
as long as the buildings are separated by 10 feet, which is the requirement for an outbuilding the relational thing, we would view that as one large property, so we just need to know that the buildings are separated by so much, and they are, and so my feeling is I don't know.
Yeah, well, the separation between buildings is normally, driven by the fire and electric code.
Right,
You're trying to prevent one building from catching the other one on fire. The positioning of the building on the lot, as long as those setbacks are preserved, I mean, that's more aesthetics and, you know, how far you wanna be from the
sure.
street and that kind of thing.
But what I'm saying is, in order to apply the ordinance, you have to assume that we own the street and that it's not just one giant property. If everything internal is their stuff, we can still, because of fire code, we can still
Right.
talk about setbacks between buildings, but we can no longer talk about setbacks from, I mean, it wouldn't be any different than if you had a 1 acre property up south of the interstate and you had a little trail road going down there. We can't really require a setback from the trail road.
Well, what happens is that in that area, it's a private contract, we call those covenants. And so if there are or are not covenants, you would interpret it based on what they say. Now, that thing may not even have any covenants. So it wouldn't be our bailiwick, I guess, to deal with that issue because it's private property.
But I do still think they need to apply for conditional use
Yes.
to put the homes there. This is clear as mud.
Got it.
So we have two people who should be applying for that, right?
Correct.
If we can get.
So these
this
are
and make sure.
our lots, I mean, they're residential lots,
Correct.
and they want to put, are they looking to put a modular or a manufactured
They
home?
manufactured.
Okay,
But.
It makes a
The
difference.
caveat to this is, it's in a zone that allows for a conditional use.
yeah,
And it's previously had this condition.
Yeah, that's the one where they moved it off.
They moved it off.
Right,
And so
okay.
I guess, you know, we'd have a right to not approve that, but they should apply for it and see what happens.
At any rate, here's an example of an application. Let me know if y'all have any additions or questions or deletions or anything like that. If not, then this week I will get that application out to the two individuals so that they can get that submitted in time for the next council meeting. We also got notification that the Air Force Public Affairs would like to have a public meeting at our community center on April 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. We requested an informational flyer from them so that we could get that posted. And this will be basically a town meeting to discuss the new Sentinel missile system.
Okay.
And we are currently working with the DEQ and the EPA on a Build America, Buy America waiver for certain parts for our north property. So we don't see that being an issue. However, we are waiting on response from the EPA on that.
Anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Next meeting, Monday, February 24th at 6. Preceded by,
I have a question, sir. In regards to the manufactured home, are you referring to they can pull it in, it stays on the wheels, and then you can pull it out? Or are you talking about setting it down on a foundation?
It has to be on a,
it has to be on a foundation.
Okay.
Well, technically, a manufactured home is built to HUD standards. A modular is built under the Uniform Building Code. So the wiring's different, the plumbing's different, a lot of differences.
So that's entirely different from a quote mobile home
There is no such thing as a mobile home under the law.
under the law anymore? Okay.
No, they went
But
out
what you're
in
envisioning
'76.
is very much that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
thank you for
terminology's not used anymore, but.
I just needed clarification, old school.
But
Yeah.
once again, they're, just to be clear, there are only certain areas and the reason I feel like we will review this one is because it's had prior use. I guess we would review anyone who applied, but,
Thank you.
so, we have a 4:30 meeting prior on February 24th.
Do you have a 4:30 workshop on the 24th?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone?
I move to adjourn.
Second it.
Moved and seconded to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.